Join the Fuzz Buzz, where retired Lieutenant Jessica Taylor and retired Motors Officer Mike Gonzalez serve law enforcement's unfiltered reality. No PC, just raw, uncensored truth. 50 years in the trenches. Buckle up for a blunt, gritty ride behind the badge. No apologies here for shaking things up, demanding better policing, and real community action. It's raw, edgy, and a streetwise journey towards solutions. So strap in and let's rev this truth up.
Okay, before we get started, we've been having retirement plaque gate for the last 2 years. And retirement plaque gate came to kind of an end today because I got a kit on how to make my own plaque from Heidi Wood.
How to make your own.
Yeah. That didn't involve all of the shadiness. Anyway, she sent me these pictures, and I want you to give me your honest opinion on what you think, okay? You haven't seen them yet. You ready?
Ready. Oh, that was years ago. A good picture.
You don't think I look like 60 pounds heavier?
No.
You don't?
No.
What about this one?
You don't look 60-pound heavier, but you're definitely, I mean, you got to admit, without throwing your weight out there, you are considerably lighter than when you were working. So, whatever you were.
I mean, look at this.
You weren't unhealthy there. And you're not unhealthy now, so it's just a matter of,
I mean, this is like, it's shocking. It was shock.
Oh.
Okay, but before we get started, also, I just wanted to, just because we love hockey and we love America and we're patriots through and through. So this is the Four Nations hockey tournament, right?
Four Nations, I think, Finland, Sweden, and Canada and the U.S.
Yeah, so the national anthem. They booed our anthem.
Oh, they've been booing it, yeah.
We got into 3 fights in the first 9 seconds. We then net 3 answered goals. We blast Free Bird after each goal, and we blow them out of their own stadium. America is back. So I just want to play it because it was just so, like...
We're going to drop the gloves right away. Yep. Sam Bennett. Brady Kachuk. What a tilt. What on Miller. And Miller dropped the gloves, and Perico's going to answer. And Perico, the way, speeds Eichel into the zone, flipping it through, scores! Game tied as Team USA has answered. And away goes Larkin, it's a 2-on-1, Larkin scores! Dylan Larkin, and Team USA has the lead.
Anyway, they end up going 3-1.
Right. Canada took the early lead in the first period, and then they just blanked the rest of the game and gave up 3 goals, 1 in each period, to win 3-1.
Yeah.
And I mean, going back, it's like, yeah, they booed them there, but they've been booing ever since, President Trump came out and said, hey, you guys want to F around, then you're going to find out.
Yeah.
And they think that's, we got a crazy lunatic president, but he's just trying to do what's best for America.
But you know what? Everybody's foeing right now.
Right. And, what I mean? And just on a side note to that is some Canadian got on there and said, well, we shouldn't be bringing politics into sports. And I said, I agree, but I beg you to show me any American hockey rink that booed the Canadian national anthem.
It hasn't, not that I'm aware of.
Not that I'm aware of either. So, it's like, yeah, don't bring politics into it, but we haven't been booing the Canadian national anthems here in Washington State. And a lot of it has to do with the West Side, Olympia, but it affects all of Washington.
Which is unfortunate.
It is very unfortunate. We've talked about, how the East Side is not very well represented just due to
the douchebags in the West Side.
Right. But I found this interesting. So this came from the ITU posted this on their X account, but it's really interesting how I was hoping to blow up bigger. But these are basically communication guidance from our governor's office to all of his agencies, right? So, they're talking about all press releases must be sent to the governor's office communications team for review at least 48 hours ahead of the anticipated release date. All press releases must be written in plain language agencies must provide.
Not in cursive, because none of us can read cursive.
Okay, yeah, it says plain language, ensuring releases are easily understood by everyday Washingtonians. Or do they think we're just all ignorant? And it just kind of really goes down. Notices must be provided to the governor's office as soon as possible if any agency director has unplanned contact with any major news outlet. I mean, really? It's like this sounds so restrictive, like our own policy. I mean, what do you think?
Well, I feel like right now, honest to God, I feel like we're living in what I would describe as communist China.
Right. In the state of Washington.
In the state of Washington. I feel like we have a big giant wall around us right now. In fact, I have a slide up here that somebody else demonstrates the same thing. It's like we're the communist state of Washington. I mean, they're separating kids from their families. You've got all these people that were, questionable with Murray, and then this Pedersen, and you've got Ferguson, and you've got this Nick Brown, and they're just have it out for these kids. And that's fucking weird.
Right.
That isn't really happening anyplace else. I feel like we are living in some alternate universe.
It's funny you should bring up Nick Brown, because the next guy I want to bring up, our Attorney General Nick Brown, he put on, let me read it to you before I show the video, a huge victory for Washington youth. So the trans community, parents, and healthcare providers today, when a federal judge granted our request to pause the president's illegal order blocking funding for gender-affirming care. Providers can now get back to work serving our youth. And this is what he wanted to share with people on X.
Good morning, everyone. Just leaving the federal courthouse here in Seattle after an incredible victory by our team. The judge here in the Western District issued a temporary restraining order granting our request to enjoin the president's illegal action to stop transgender care here in Washington. Really proud of the team, proud of all the parents, proud of the kids who stood up to defend their rights and defend their liberty. And just an incredible victory today.
So before I get over to you, I just want to say that he's all in favor of mutilating our youth, and he expects the government to pay for all these transgender care. Make it make sense.
Please, Tom Homan, Kash Patel, President Trump, please hurry. He said, follow the damn law or whatever.
Right,
President
right.
Trump the other day, right?
Yeah, he said that to Trump. Exactly. Follow the damn law.
Follow the damn law. I think he's going to get a rude awakening. I really do. And I really hope I'm here to see it.
Oh, I think we will, because, I mean, what did should we even call him Governor Ferguson? Fergie, who breaks the law himself. He said 1/3 of the Washington budget rely on the federal government for assistance. It hasn't been said that if you violate the federal laws, they're going to withhold federal funding.
Okay, so here's the thing that I'm having the biggest issue with all of this is, so Trump is like, if you're not going to go along with the program, right? We're getting back to men's and women's bathrooms, men's and women's sports, all the things that used to be like normal life. And we're just going back to that. There's nothing like new. Right? And if you don't do that, then you're going to not get federal funding. They're mad at Trump, not mad at Fergie or Dow Constantine or Nick Brown. They're just mad at Trump. They just absolutely just can't get off of that.
Right. The TDS is strong, but they're reaching to that one small percentage of the population. But that is what's getting most of the news. Yeah. Right. And, again, we've talked about this before. It's like, how can you think that a 13-year-old or younger can make these life-altering decisions, but yet they can't drive until they're 16, they can't vote till they're 18, they can't drink till they're 21, and they can't sign up to serve their country till they're 18. But hey, a 13-year-old can decide, I want puberty blockers, whatever. I want, to cut off my unit. I want to have a mastectomy at 13.
God, I even try to think back to when I was 13. And 13 is like what, the 8th grade? The 8th grade, yeah. 9th grade? Yeah. Somewhere in there?
8th grade. Parents brainwashing their kids today to think that that's what they want, or the parents want a virtue signal so they can say, I have a trans. It's just like total virtue signaling, to the umpteenth degree. This by Jason Rantz. I'll read it since it's kind of small. He's like, Seattle protesters target Elon Musk Trump administration at the Tesla showroom downtown. I mean, it's like, how much more virtue signaling can you do? I mean, this is in South Lake Union Tesla dealership, but it's like, what? Yeah, you're really hurting Elon.
And I want to bet that most of those people are paid protesters anyways. I don't think they're like legit protesters, to be honest.
Funny you should say that. They're saying a lot. The reason why you're not seeing such great turnout in the protesting world is because
the Doge is cutting into their
USAID is really hurting their funding. All right. So what do you got going? Phelan?
Let's see. So here's what I was saying earlier. When you've got these three people, look at them. I mean,
you got Jamie Pedersen. He's like the lead.
He's in a little Boy Scout outfit. They just have this creepy obsession with kids. I don't understand it. John Curley was down. John Curley, who I always thought leaned more left.
I did too. Yeah.
Always.
100%.
And he was down in Olympians. I was kind of surprised. And I think you were too when I showed.
Oh, yeah. When his emotion and his. Yeah. I was. That's like, I'm like, whoa, blown away. Because, yeah.
Yeah. This is from Jonathan Cho.
It's odd. Because on Tuesday, there were 100 people here. It was cold. And Tracy Foster was fighting against this ridiculous Keeping Families Together Act. Yeah. 136,000 calls were made to CPS. 85% of them said there's nothing else to look at here. The state moves in and tries to keep those families together. There was one call about a little boy, FF he's known as. I'm sure his gravestone has his full name. And when the state found out that there was drugs being used in that house, you know what they did? They said, oh, that's okay. We'll send a cleaning crew to that house to make sure the meth pipe is not near that child. The state moved in, and that was the remedy to keep that family together. Because that family should be together. But when your kid goes to school and is 13 years old and cannot get an aspirin unless you send an application saying it's okay, or yes, it's okay for my son or daughter to have sunscreen on. That same 13-year-old that cannot vote, that cannot buy alcohol, that cannot have cigarettes, that cannot have a tattoo, that 13-year-old somehow, like Doogie Howser, has been able to self-diagnose themselves, and the state quickly rushes in to affirm the 13-year-old's diagnosis. There is not one person anywhere in the world that would understand that, other than the people that are in that building that think that they know better than everyone else.
I swear it's like kidnapping your kids.
Right.
I mean, that's how it feels to me. I'm glad we don't have kids because I would run so far, so fast, and the kids would never go to school. Never. Really scary.
Yeah. Because, I mean, it's been a few years now, but yeah, they incorporated that children didn't need to let their parents know when they're seeking mental health through the school, or whether or not they've been prescribed any, basically mental health medications. And then it turned into this, the transgender, where, they don't need to inform the kid, their parents, if their child wants any kind of gender, affirming care, or if they want to change their pronouns. It goes beyond like political indoctrination. Before, it was like you're trying to teach these kids to go woke so they can have the next line of, socialist, democratic, whatever you want to call them. But now they're like affecting them mentally through, mental health drugs. And then now physically.
Let me see if I can pull it up again.
People say to me, well, the government schools are broken. I'm here to tell you right now, they're not broken. They're doing exactly what they were designed to do. And if you would read the history, read it, I dare you. Read the history of the government school system here in Washington State and around the nation, and you will see the socialist communist tentacles from the very beginning. You can go back to the 1800s, go back to Erastus Brownson, go back to Horace Mann, who was a socialist and a communist. These guys know the power of education, and that is why they are targeting the schools. That is why they're after your children. You see, we can elect wonderful people to be the president.
That's exactly right. This is where it starts. It starts in the schools. And if you haven't seen Yuri Bezmenov on YouTube, you have to look up the full interview. He's a KGB defector. He breaks it down for you.
It starts in the schools, just like it starts like with the school board. That's where, you know, they infiltrate the school boards and they work their way up through there, you know, to bring on this agenda.
Yeah, this is quick.
Ideological subversion is the slow process, which we call either ideological subversion or active measures or psychological warfare. What it basically means is to change the perception of reality of every American to such an extent that despite of the abundance of information, no one is able to come to sensible conclusions in the interests of defending themselves, their families, their community, and their country. It's a great brainwashing process which goes very slow. It takes from 15 to 20 years to demoralize a nation. This is the minimum number of years which requires to educate one generation of students exposed to the ideology of the enemy. In other words, Marxism-Leninism ideology is being pumped into the soft heads of at least 3 generations of American students without being challenged or counterbalanced by the basic values of Americanism. The demoralization process in the United States is basically completed already. Most of it is done by Americans to Americans, thanks to lack of moral standards. Ideological subversion.
Isn't that nuts?
It is.
So I just had to get off that off my chest. Just the educational system is just freaking.
There's a lot to get off your chest. Moving national now to the political side of everything. Here we go.
That is a constitutional crisis.
Causing a constitutional crisis.
Constitutional crisis.
That this is a genuine constitutional crisis.
Constitutional crisis.
Crisis the country has faced.
Constitutional crisis.
Is calling it a constitutional crisis. We're headlong into a genuine constitutional crisis.
Witnessing is a constitutional crisis.
We're in a deep constitutional crisis. Trump has been.
But I mean, we've heard that quite a few times in reference to what President Trump supposedly running us into a constitutional crisis, right?
Well, it's funny that you had said that because I was going through Twitter on my end and I came across something very similar that says they got their marching orders again.
Right. So that's like the whole.
Yeah. And it was Rachel Madcow and she starts it off and.
Is a constitutional crisis.
Close to a constitutional crisis.
Causing a constitutional crisis.
Constitutional crisis.
A constitutional crisis.
Constitutional crisis. It means whole
constitutional crisis.
In a constitutional crisis.
Constitutional crisis.
Constitutional crisis.
Oh, I mean, you were, it wasn't it you. It was you.
Right.
Because you're the only person that I see that was telling me that this isn't like new verbiage for them. Did you say like
the Dan Bongino show? He put up a clip that actually started back in like 2016, shortly after President Trump was elected for his first term, which ran through his whole entire term, through his re-election process, and even now into 2025. So yeah, this isn't the first time they've tried to use it, but you know, you got to go with our Carolyn Levitt. She's amazing, and she does very well to probably try to, you know, dissuade people on this.
The real constitutional crisis is taking place within our judicial branch, where district court judges in liberal districts across the country are abusing their power to unilaterally block President Trump's basic executive authority. We believe these judges are acting as judicial activists rather than honest arbiters of the law, and they have issued at least 12 injunctions against this administration in the past 14 days, often without citing any evidence or grounds for their lawsuits. This is part of a larger concerted effort by Democrat activists and nothing more than the continuation of the weaponization of justice against President Trump. Quick news flash to these liberal judges who are supporting their obstructionist efforts: 77 million Americans voted to elect this president. And each injunction is an abuse of the rule of law and an attempt to thwart the will of the people. As the president clearly stated in the Oval Office yesterday, we will comply with the law in the courts, but we will also continue to seek every legal remedy to ultimately overturn these radical injunctions and ensure President Trump's policies can be enacted.
Right.
Yep. Well, they've had 4 years to Soros to get in all the prosecutors and all the judges and mayors and governors and school board electors. It goes deep.
Right.
It just goes very, very, very
and
deep.
She said it best, as like President Trump's gonna, he's gonna follow the rule of the law. He's gonna obey these, judges' orders. But as she stated, the orders are baseless. There's no case law behind it. There's no sight of what law has been broken. They're basically judge shopping. Hey, we think this is wrong. Okay.
It's just lawfare. Yeah.
Right.
It's just, trying to tie everything up in the court systems. And I'm happy to see that they're just kind of plugging away.
I think he's had 4 years to figure out what needs to be done. This is constitutional crisis. And he's like, not buying it. Right.
Right.
He's
Neither
not
am
emotional.
I.
He's not emotional. He's transactional. And he's just like, all right, this is what I expected you to do this. So this is what I'm doing.
Yeah. I mean, it's just crazy watching them just get this upset.
Tell me this isn't a little bit hypocritical of the left. He's talking about, hey,
go after the president's enemies. They could open investigations of people for no reason with no evidence. They could potentially pressure prosecutors to move forward with charges without an adequate basis. Now, I have faith in the court system that those cases ultimately get thrown out. I have faith in the jury system, but they could really turn people's lives upside down in the process. And of course, merely opening an investigation against someone, even if it's without merit, that can create a cloud over that person. And I'm sure one way they, may be contemplating going after their enemies is to open unwarranted investigations, make the fact of the investigation public, and attempt to smear people.
Is this a joke?
Nope. That's, as you can see, this was published by Maze Moore, who does a lot of good content on X. And you can see January 2025. This is right before the inauguration, because he's basically losing it because he's scared of the lawfare that they put on. I mean, doesn't that sound exactly like what they did to?
It doesn't sound like it is.
Right.
I mean, it is.
Yeah. And he's freaking out now because he knows they've got dirt on him. And he's like now talking about supposedly this lawfare that President Trump could be bringing up. But that's what they've been doing for the last 4 years, right?
Right.
So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's not questionable. That is exactly what they did.
Right. And now that, the shoes falling on the other foot, he's basically trying to do this preemptive, oh my God, if they do this lawfare and they try to come after me, here I am warning you that they're going to do this, even though we've been doing it for the last 4 years. Senator Warren, Pocahontas, as they like to call her, getting put in her place by Senator Britford out of Alabama. So, it's just like I said, she's virtue signaling and she's basically losing it because they're not in control and they're going to get caught. You got something?
Well, I was just going to say that these nut jobs are the nut jobs that the local left is watching, and which is making them act like this.
Right. So, yeah. So
this is their normal.
Katie Britt here out of Alabama is basically going to put Pocahontas in her place here, as she likes to think she's a Native American. So take a listen.
We are at an unprecedented moment. Our financial systems are facing huge risks from the economic chaos of President Trump and his co-president, Elon Musk.
President Trump ran on this. I mean, he said, we're going to look for wasteful spending across our government. We're $36 trillion in debt, y'all. That's not only fiscally irresponsible, it is actually morally irresponsible. And the difference in this administration and the last administration is that President Trump is actually the final arbiter. And it's interesting that none of you had anything to say over the last 4 years when it is clear that our commander-in-chief was not in command. And if we're going to use the term co-president, then let's go back and say co-president Jake Sullivan, co-president Ron Klain, co-president Jill Biden. I mean, it seems that some of the biggest decisions were made during the president's afternoon nap time. And so I just think we need to be a little bit more honest about what's been laid out and what's actually occurring.
That's what you call a bit of a mic drop.
Yeah.
I mean,
she's not wrong.
Your thoughts?
Well, I mean, I don't know what Elizabeth Warren's problem is. You know, she's been paid her $277,000 a year and has somehow amassed it into 280 million or something crazy
Oh yeah,
like
we'll,
that.
we'll get to that too.
Oh, okay. You pay 30% of your check as federal income tax. You pay 10% in most state income tax. You pay another 7% in sales tax. You pay another 8% in property tax. For most Americans, 55% of your check is taken from you before you can even get home from work. So I don't want to hear it from you,
Right.
Elizabeth Warren.
Right. Well, I mean, she's sitting there. I mean, this is all of a bigger plot because the further they dig into all these government agencies, the more the money trail is going to lead back to them. So she's, essentially like shifty shift trying to cover her tracks by saying, well, this is unlawful of what they're doing. And, Katie Britt's coming back saying, this is what he campaigned on and the American people voted him in to do.
Yeah, and so they're all mad, right, about this Doge and Elon running Doge. But what I don't think they understand is that Doge was initially created by Obama.
Right. Under a different name. Yeah.
Under a different name and rebranded. And if you don't believe me, here you go.
Is something that leaders in one of the commitments that I made to the American people was that we would do a better job here in Washington in rooting out wasteful spending. We don't need to wait for Congress in order to do something about wasteful spending that's out there. Cutting waste, making government more efficient is something that leaders in both parties have worked on. We haven't seen as much action out of Congress as we'd like, and that's why we launched on our own initiative. One of the commitments.
Now, let's be honest. He's part of the problem. He's just virtue signaling,
Well,
lying.
he is part of the problem, but that's why they're able to get this Doge thing through because it's already been passed by Congress.
Right.
There's nothing they can do about it.
Right. I mean, there's so many things that they've done that they thought they were being sneaky about that is coming out to bite them in the ass.
Wants to believe that Elon's out there creating this Doge program. Well, it was already there by your guy, and they just rebranded it, and there's nothing you can do.
Shifting from the political side of these emotionally unbalanced, can't control their emotion people. I don't know if you've seen this, but I want to get your take on this. It is extremely interesting.
Listen, all the Elon Trump stuff, it's getting to a point, man. It's getting like somebody is going to have to, preferably someone who's already doing it, so one of y'all, but somebody's going to have to just throw their life away on this one, just kind of take one for the team, just somebody has got to just, kind of get in there and go make history. You know who you are. So just buck up and do your duty, Listen.
Calling Secret Service, FBI, Tom Homan.
Right. I mean, I don't know if you've seen that, but this is just kind of like what I kind of want to reiterate is they have no emotional impulse control. I mean, how stupid are you? And how many times have you ever heard like just a conservative come across and threaten the president of the United States?
I can't believe that you're that dumb that you would put it on TikTok or whatever.
Right.
But they do. And then they're like
Control?
fucking shocked when somebody shows up at their door.
Right.
Like, how dare you?
The reason why we didn't win because the fucking Trump was at the goddamn game. God damn it! Trump should not have been at our fucking game.
She's how old?
I don't know.
Yeah.
These people are so funny.
But that's like the TDS is just alive and well and strong in these people. I mean,
well,
that's funny though too. I thought I got a kick out of it because she just.
I know, but then there's this guy who I think I showed you this morning. Who?
Good day, folks. You know what pisses me off the most is that the people that came to this country and want a good life here and want to become an American, and yet they're out there waving their fucking flag, protesting this and that, all that shit. If you are legal, what the fuck do you have to worry about? Unless you do some dumb shit and you worry about getting deported. Okay? People like me came here illegally through the process. We're Americans. Okay? We love this country. We love the flag, the American flag, the America. The red, white, and blue. Okay? We don't care about our flag. We left that shit behind. Okay? You dumb son of a bitch, you do some dumb shit with your flags, you might well take that flag and shove it up your ass and go back where you come from. Motherfucker. If I see you on the road waving your flag, I will call ICE because I get $750 each, bitch.
Okay, now to correct his statement, you do not get $750 from ICE to report somebody. That is false information, but it rings true. His statement rings true.
Yeah.
He's there illegally, and it pisses him off to see a whole bunch of illegals.
Well, he's a citizen. He did.
He's a citizen.
He did the legal process correctly, is what he's saying.
Yeah.
And he gave up his flag from his previous country because he's not American.
Right.
And he loves the American flag, where you look at these protesters, they're out there waving the Mexican flag, whatever flag they're from, and burning the American flag, but yet they're pissed off because they're getting deported back to these countries they love so much because they don't love America. They're just here for the free ride. Starting off with Maxine Waters saying the quiet part out loud.
People of this country are being violated because all of our privacy is being taken up by Elon Musk and Trump, and we don't know what all they have on us. We don't know what all they have on us. The people,
which is where the real outrage is at, because they don't know what everything that they have on them, and it's coming, right?
Right. Well, I hope so. I mean, listen, if you're an adult, you have signed up for TikTok, you have signed up for Facebook, you've gotten a driver's license and a credit card, you've bought a house, a car. My information has been sold on the dark web. I don't know how many times. They're going to dig up all of her accounts in the Bahamas, or they're all her other.
They're gonna follow the money trail.
Follow the money. And that's what she's really worried about. It's not like really like she's saying, you know, they might have our social security numbers. Well, no shit, they have your social security number. That's what they're all worried about, is just losing their gravy train.
Right. You know, and then you got Chuck Schumer trying to run interference here by his little BS statement.
Everyone knows there's waste in government and should be cut. But DOGE is using a meat axe, and they're cutting things that are efficient and effective. I was in Albany and Syracuse on Monday talking at community health centers. Many of them have had their funds cut temporarily. Some even hasn't been restored yet. And they're the most efficient healthcare providers around. Take AID. Maybe there's some programs they don't like, but most people agree that PEPFAR was extremely effective and cost effective. Most people would want to see us continue our fight in Central Africa against Ebola so it doesn't come here. And so the bottom line is very simple, okay? If you want to make cuts, then you do it through a debate in Congress, not lawlessly by just implementing it.
So he starts off with admitting that there is waste in government, which, you know, for the longest time they said there wasn't any. And then he runs off into a tantrum because, you know, all of his money, his gravy train also is running dry.
Well, I have a couple things to say about that. First of all,
go for it.
He says, admittedly, USAID is researching Ebola in Africa.
Right.
Right? Yesterday, in the news, 2 cases of possible Ebola popped up in New York. Chuck Schumer's district, correct?
Right. Yep. He's in New York.
Well, isn't that interesting? So I also learned that Bill Gates is getting, I think they said, I mean, don't quote me on this, $4 billion a year from USAID.
So next we have Elizabeth Warren again, and she's getting asked the $1 million question, literally, and we'll see her reaction to that.
Where's the gold?
Now,
I just want to answer a question. How did you get a $12 million net worth
on a $200,000 salary in Congress. How did you do that?
Excuse me.
How did you do that? You can keep trying to block my camera. We're on a public sidewalk, so Senator Warren, I just want to answer a question. How did you get a $12 million net worth
off a $200,000 job? You know,
well, it's going to come to a point where these people aren't going to be able to walk down the street.
Right.
Because the Americans, true Americans that aren't buying into all this bullshit, are pissed.
They are. You know,
they're pissed. They want to know. They want answers. And I heard today, or maybe it was yesterday, I can't remember, where they're going to audit the Treasury and the gold. And what do you want to bet that the gold is either not anywhere near what they say it is, or it's not there at all?
Yeah. Oh, I don't want to, I'm not going to take that bet, you know, but as we're talking about this, I'll just go ahead and, you know, share this as we're talking, but you know, this just goes down to the whole thing, right? Nancy Pelosi, annual salary, 223, net worth, 202 million. Mitch McConnell, 200,000, 95 million. Chuck Schumer, $210,000, annual salary, 75 million. And here's our Elizabeth Warren. It's not 9 million or 12 million. She 285,000, net worth 67 million.
Oh, 67 million. I was a couple $100 million off.
It just goes on and on and on. But, you know, it's just crazy that.
Yeah. I mean, first of all, you get nothing done in Congress. You get absolutely nothing done. You're absolutely worthless. The only thing you do is launder money.
Right. You know, and here you can just, it just keeps going. I mean, it's like Mitt Romney, 174,000 annual, and he's worth 300 million. And
it's the same people that just keep getting reelected. I find that very strange.
Right. Exactly.
You know, I don't think I should probably put my hat on for this, but I don't think that our elections here in Washington State are legit. I don't.
Oh, yeah. No, 100%. I agree with you.
I mean, there is no way that everybody over on the west side of the state is that freaking crazy, that they're all in on cutting the genitals off of kids at 13. There's no way.
Yeah.
That's real.
No.
And there's no way they're fine with the homeless dying on the streets and with as filthy as it is down there, people literally taking a shit on the street. And not having police services.
Well, how about just all the taxation they're doing on us from Olympia? I mean, you know, right now they're looking at trying to do the, you know, charge by mile tax on people who, you know, cars and keep the gas tax. I mean, they're champion for the impoverished people, the people of low income, and how they're trying to help them out. It's going to soul crush them.
Right.
And who voted for all that?
I am not convinced that all of this is on the up and up at all.
Right.
Not even at all. In fact, what I wrote to White House, I think like 6 years ago or something, he wrote me a letter back telling me that basically I wear a tinfoil hat. I mean, essentially, that's what he said.
Right.
He's like, everything's on the up and up. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
So I don't believe that there are that many. I mean, now there's a lot, but I don't believe there are that many people over there.
But yeah, let me play this real quick because from Megyn Kelly, because this really, because it leads right into like where you were and how a lot of America voted this go around because of what's going on. So, but this is so true of so many people.
Democrats helped more than that even because, you know, when I was at Fox and then for that year at NBC, I was more in the center. I was like, definitely center right. Now I think I'm pretty conservative. I mean, I just am now. I mean, the earth has shifted such that I think I have to say, yes, I by today's standards, you'd call me conservative, but that's thanks to them. They, you know, what they did to me.
They shifted her to the conservative, and I'm sure there are moderate Democrats or left-leaning libertarians that are now shifting right, or, you know, you got Democrats that are coming more to the center because of the bullshit, you know, and you were there, weren't you not at one point?
Oh, for sure. I mean, I was pretty left, wouldn't you say?
Yeah. You know,
and then I kind of just start inching. And I think I'm where Megyn Kelly is now, where this just doesn't make any logical sense to me. So if that makes me far right, I guess that just makes me far right, because that is so like not even imaginable. I can't even get my mind to go there.
Right.
Is what it is.
Their craziness, if you want to call it that, their extreme ideology, if you want to call it that, just the way they're censoring people, it's really put a lot of people, turned a lot of people off and away from that party. It's like, I think their approval ratings for the Democratic Party as a whole is under 30% now across the country.
I can't even believe it's that high, to be honest with
Right.
you.
I think it's actually closer to 20%, but I don't know the exact number. I just know it's under 30%.
Let's just shift into, we'd like to cover at least one law enforcement video. Again, haven't seen it. I know as much as you know, which is nothing, but let me read you the bio on it. On January 30th of 2025 at approximately 8:22 p.m., Windsor police officer Brandon Thomas located a suspicious vehicle parked in the parking lot of a Tiger Mart gas station on Windsor Avenue. The vehicle, a Jeep Liberty Sport, had a marker plate that came back to another vehicle. While on scene, two persons exited the convenience store and walked towards the Jeep. Officer Thomas approached the two persons and began to ask about the misuse of the marker plate. At that time, one of the two persons, Giovanni Nunez, a Hispanic male aged 21, ran away. Officer Thomas chased Nunez across Windsor Avenue and into the entrance to Kenny Park. While giving chase, Officer Thomas yelled, quote, "Stop running or I'm going to fucking tase you," end quote. He then pulled out his actual firearm from his holster and fired one round at Nunez. Officer Thomas then said, quote, "Oh shit, I didn't mean to do that," end quote. Nunez was not hit and was subsequently taken into custody. During the apprehension, Officer Thomas fell into a stream and his body-worn camera became soaked. The recording, however, was able to be recovered. Following his arrest, Nunez accused Officer Thomas of shooting at him. Officer Thomas denied this and said that he only used his taser. The investigation is continuing. So that's where we're at.
Damn, what up, y'all? This y'all, huh? This plate don't match, man. Hold on. Where you going? Hold on. Going into Jeep Park. Yo, stop running. I'm a fucking tase you. Oh, shit. I did not mean to do that.
Put that right there. Did you shoot at me?
I thought you said gun, bro.
Gun?
Yeah.
Bro, you shot at me, right? No, he didn't shoot a gun at you.
Yes, this right here. This.
Taser. He shot a gun at me.
No, I didn't.
Taser.
I heard a gun. That wasn't me, bro.
He shot a gun.
How?
I heard a
That's why you use this. It's coming out.
The difference between a gun and a taser.
Oh, boy.
Yeah. Definitely a gun. I mean, it was definitely a gun and a flash and an admittance of guilt on there and whatnot. So, I mean, that one's pretty clear, cut and dry. And then to lie about it, I mean, the body cam does not lie. And I mean, I, for one, always loved body cams. I wanted them. A lot of people didn't, because it's like, if you have nothing to fear and nothing to hide, then you shouldn't be worried.
Has nothing to hide, hides nothing.
Right. And so,
listen, man, you fucked up, right? Own it.
Yep.
Just own it.
Because
you
he
won't
would've
survive the lie.
He would have survived the gunshot, but yeah.
Yeah, you will not survive the lie, because that has happened before, right? Like when the tasers and the firearms are on the same side, that has happened.
Right.
That's why they switched. It had to be your opposite leg or your opposite hip or
Our department made
yes,
that.
our department.
Or Seattle Police Department did.
But that has happened.
Right. And it's easy to do in the heat of the moment.
Yeah. So for me, if I wanted to use my taser, I would like consciously have to switch hands, because I'm not a lefty. And I always had my taser on my left leg. I would have to switch. So it looked to me like, I don't know, we're both on the same side.
Well, I mean, with all the running and jumping
It's
and
hard to tell.
it looked that way because, it came up in the right, because like mine was a cross draw. So you'd have to, it'd be coming around.
Right.
But if it was on his
regardless,
Yeah.
you fucking shot your gun.
Yeah.
And don't lie about it because
Right.
you did.
And I often told people, like the younger officers, it's like, you could have an accidental or negligent discharge, as they call it now. And as long as you're truthful about it, and you could actually negligently accidentally shoot somebody and survive it, as long as you're truthful about it, because now your morals are being brought into, your integrity.
You just don't, in police work, you just don't lie. Your integrity is really all you have, right? So you've got this guy who's saying, no, dude, you shot at me and you tased me.
Right.
I know the difference because you just tased me.
Right.
It sounds a hell of a lot different than it did like a half a second ago when you tried to shoot me.
Right. Because a taser sounds like a little 22 popping.
Yeah.
And a handgun, even if it's a 9mm, has a considerably louder pop.
Yeah.
And it has a little bit of a sharp ping to it, like an echo to it. So,
and then he's like saying, no, I didn't. No, I didn't.
I know. So I'd probably venture to guess his career is over.
I would have no problem with that. So I've got like 4 funnies. And I know that's a lot, but they're funny. So let's just go out on these.
Deleted 30,000 emails. Hunter Biden is a crack addict with hookers. Joe Biden sold access to the US government to Chinese communists. Pelosi is rich from insider trading. Stephen D'Antuono of the FBI staged the Gretchen Whitmer Fednapping and January 6th. Mayorkas allowed the invasion of our border. Epstein's clients walk free. Dr. Fauci lied about funding gain-of-function experiments that created the COVID-19 virus. Pfizer and Moderna lied about the safety of their mRNA COVID jab. Andrew Cuomo killed 11,000 elderly people in New York. Planned Parenthood sold aborted baby body parts. Shall I go on? These people are all walking free. And yet Trump is the one who's convicted for paying his attorney.
I mean, right? It's
Spitting
like
spitting straight
just spitting
facts.
straight facts, but it's like, listen, I can't spell it out for you any simpler than that.
It's TDS. It's TDS, and it's deep state afraid that their gig's up. I mean, that's the two
Well, it
things that
is.
boils. I mean, yeah, but those are the people who are so anti-Trump, or your blue-haired, bull-nosed, left-lean, extreme left liberals, and politicians and people who have been grifting on the deep state for so long.
So we loved JFKJ, or at least I do. And he's talking about getting food dyes out of our food and high fructose corn syrup and all this kind of stuff. So I just love him. I mean, it's going to be a hard adjustment for a lot of people if this does go through, because it is in most of our food. However, over in Europe, it is not. They have healthier food than we do. But woman, she's like, everyone purging their fridge and pantry this weekend after KJ gets in.
You can't always get what you want. You can't always get what you want. You can't always get what you want. But if you try sometimes, will you just laugh?
I find it very refreshing.
It is very refreshing.
You talk about Europeans that over there being much healthier, but they also don't have the obesity problem we have.
Oh,
I mean,
they
they're trying
do
to
smoke though, which is weird.
Right, a lot of them do, but they're trying to say obesity is genetic. No, bullshit. You might be big bone, but it doesn't mean you have to weigh 400 pounds. You don't have to weigh 400 pounds.
No,
not 450.
Not 450.
It's just obesity epidemic in the United States is like no other. Not even Canada, who is our neighbors to the north, have the same problem because they do a better job of getting red dye, high fructose, and all that crap that again, most of the big farmers aren't allowed except for in the United States for that reason, because they're trying to kill people to stay in business.
Yep, good. They keep you sick. The food here keeps you sick,
right?
For sure.
I got to thinking, there's MAHA, Make America Healthy Again. MAGA, Make America Great Again. But what we really need to do is make America follow the Constitution again. Motherfucker. That sounded better in my head.
Yeah. That's pretty funny. That was funny.
That was funny.
Yeah, that's a good one.
And then the last one that I have to share with you is, I mean, this is where we're at.
Right.
And I just can't even believe it. Somebody please make it make sense. I mean,
Yep. Yeah, I mean, the Rachel Maddow glasses, the bull nose,
bull nose ring.
should have blue hair. But, you know, I mean, yeah, the people, I mean, are outraged at the fact that Elon and President Trump are finding all this corruption. They're not outraged. Just makes your head hurt. It's like they're finding all this corruption, but they're not mad about that because mainstream media tells them to hate him and the politicians tell them to hate him
because it's a constitutional crisis. Right. Constitutional crisis.
Yeah.
Anyway, have a good night and we'll talk to you later.
Bye-bye.
Thanks so much for tuning in to this episode of the Fuzz Buzz Podcast. If you're enjoying what you've heard today, please feel free to rate, subscribe, or leave a review wherever you listen to your podcasts. That helps others find the show, and we greatly appreciate it. Once again, thanks for tuning in, and we'll catch you in the next episode of the Fuzz Buzz. Y'all be good out there.